Hey everybody, it's Eric, your friendly Sportsnet, and this is Sportsnet News, episode number 2. On today's episode, I'd like to talk to you guys about the CFL, the Canadian Football League. So the CFL has been in the news recently about asking the Canadian government for upwards of $150 million in financial aid due to the COVID-19 restrictions. They have asked for $30 million upfront to cover current costs, and then upwards of $120 million if the season gets completely canceled due to COVID-19. Now, as some of you may know, the Canadian Football League is a gate-driven league, which translates to they need people at the games. They need the money from ticket sales, from concession sales, from merchandise sales, all of the in-game entertainment and in-game facilities. They need people to be at their stadium. So losing either an entire season or B, an entire season with no fans could be catastrophic for the CFL. The CFL, as we know it, could fold if this does not happen and they do not get any sort of help, which would be absolutely catastrophic for the Canadian sports landscape. It has been such an integral part of Canada for over 107 years, with the 107th Grey Cup just recently being handed out in November, and the 108th planned for this year in Regina. So hopefully they will be able to get everything sorted out, and hopefully COVID will be over sooner rather than later, and we can have people back in the stadiums watching the good old-fashioned CFL. It is probably one of my biggest passions, and I really look forward to the day of being able to go back down to TD Place at Lansdowne, watch a game, watch the Red Blacks. Hopefully, for their sake, they'll have a better season than last year, because last year was absolutely atrocious. Now, on a much lighter note, the CFL draft was this past week. The CFL draft is a very small draft in comparison to the other drafts like the NFL and the NHL, etc. But it's very nice to see some of the bright prospects, the young stars that could be coming into our respective teams this season or in the near future. The Ottawa Red Blacks and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, in my opinion, both did very well with their prospects that they chose. They have some very bright young stars coming up the pipeline now. And for Ottawa, hopefully, like I said, they'll be able to have a big improvement on last season. But on the Winnipeg side, you got to look at, hey, they have a chance to repeat as Grey Cup champs, which is enormous considering last year was their first Grey Cup championship in 29 years. Like, that's almost as long as I've been alive. I have not been a sports fan that long, so this is the first Grey Cup I've seen them win since I've been a sports fan. So that was a huge night. The Red Black side of it, watching them win their first Grey Cup in Ottawa history in a long time, was back in 2016 when they won the 104th Grey Cup down in Toronto. I know a lot of people that I know went down to the game, had an absolute blast. They won the game in overtime against the Stampeders. And I mean, this year with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they won in Calgary. Then they won in Regina, and then they went back to Calgary and beat the upstart Hamilton Tiger Cats, who had their best season in franchise history. So I've seen a couple really awesome Grey Cups for my two teams. But over the years, I've also seen the Winnipeg Blue Bombers lose a Grey Cup in 2007, which I was in attendance for in Toronto, and they lost to their biggest rivals in the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which was heartbreaking to be a part of, but also amazing to be able to witness a Grey Cup live for the first time in my life. They also lost in 2001 against the Calgary Stampeders, and they also lost in 2011 against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Those are the three Grey Cups that I watched them play in before they won a title. The Ottawa Red Blacks obviously have had a much shorter time in the league since 2014, but what happened? 2015, they went to the Grey Cup in Winnipeg and lost to Edmonton. 2016, they went to the Grey Cup in Toronto and beat Calgary. And then 2018, they went to the Grey Cup and lost again. So it's one of those situations where hopefully for the CFL and for their fans, nothing will happen to them, and they'll actually be able to enjoy the year this year. Now, to finish out my video, I'd like to show you guys some of the fun memorabilia I've piled up over the years as a CFL fan. As you can tell, I have one of our checkered Red Blacks jerseys. I ended up getting it on Boxing Day for like $30 at Sports Experts the year that they discontinued the Reebok jerseys. Last season, my wife was working in the Red Blacks games, and one of her season ticket holders was willing to give her a replica Grey Cup championship ring from the Red Blacks in 2016. So really cool to have something like that. When we were in 2017, when we hosted the Grey Cup, we went to a few of the events, and they handed out some of the wood cookies, which had the Grey Cup Festival logo and the Our Nation logo on either side of it. So similar to the Grey Cup the wood cookies that they hand out after every touchdown for the Red Blacks. Speaking of the Red Blacks in 2014, during their inaugural season at the home opener, they handed out a nice fancy coin for the inaugural home opener, which was really cool. The wife and I had season tickets that year. It was probably one of the best times of my life, being able to be a season ticket holder for a team, even if they only won 2 games. But luckily for us, both of them were here in Ottawa, so we didn't have to witness road games and no home wins. So that was kind of a bonus on that respect. Now, one of the fun things that we bought over the years was our little Big Joe bobblehead. Big Joe, he's our lumberjack, and we don't care. He's a lumberjack and he don't care. Anyways, just a little fun for you guys. And this past season, I was able to get my picture taken with Damon Allen, a CFL Hall of Famer, and the Grey Cup at a game I attended in July. Now, we also have Grey Cup champions from 2019, Winnipeg Blue Bombers hat, as well as a Grey Cup champions from 2016, the 104th Grey Cup, the Ottawa Red Blacks. Now, before I close out this video, I just want to say hi and shout out a few of my big CFL fans that I have out there. Matt Haddad, Richard and Lori down in Winnipeg, and so many of you other ones that I've attended games with, or we've watched games with in person or at home. It's just, I find that the CFL brings a lot of Canadians together, and it's such a fun game to watch. And as the song from Tim Hicks says, we have a longer field, we have bigger balls, and it's a much better game than the NFL, in my opinion. Anyways, I just want to say thanks for watching. Have a great evening and stay safe, everybody. And hopefully the CFL will be back in all of its glory sooner rather than later. Cheers. Have a great night.